Welcome back to a family business podcast. As time changes, so do themes and market trends within the home. We're going to sit here and just kind of lay out what we've seen, what we're telling people maybe to do if we see something that might have been a great idea 5 years ago and it needs to be adjusted a little bit. So, with going into so many homes throughout the year, we definitely see things change. So let's just have a conversation of what we're seeing people kind of doing that people are starting to like, I think, a little bit more.
Luxury vinyl plank.
Yes, that is a huge one.
Dogs.
So when I got into the business, everybody, on the higher end homes had hardwood floors, right. 3/4 inch hardwood. And then we went to the engineered product, which everybody was, asking, is that real hardwood? And now we're at luxury vinyl plank, which they've made this stuff so good these days that it looks like
it's like indestructible too.
Indestructible, yeah.
And the thing about luxury vinyl plank, which I think it's hilarious, we're starting off a podcast talking about luxury vinyl plank, is a couple of things. Number one, and it's something we didn't consider until recently, because we have a lot of clients that are now like selling their, big home or family home or the home they grew up in, and they're downsizing into like a condo or a villa or whatever. And a big thing for them is a lot of them don't want tile or hardwood because of the joints. So the luxury vinyl plank allows, this is freaking hilarious, but it allows a little bit more give for them in walking around. And plus it's just literally, if you have pets and animals, it's like literally indestructible.
Yeah,
right.
Very durable. The other thing I've noticed, which this is so funny that we're talking about decorating trends, PT, is everything was
talk about them.
When I got into the business, everything was beige, right?
Sure.
That was the big thing.
Beige.
And then it went to gray, and now we're getting back into whites, which I love. that clean look. What's the show? Joanna Gaines.
Magnolia. No, that's her brand, Magnolia Lane, but it's something like that.
They brought the white back because of the urban farmhouse look, right? So it's just, when you look at trends over the years, it's amazing how things go in, they go out, and they come back.
Well, it's funny because you see all these accent walls now too, and they used to be like a paint color, right? And now it's these like barnwood,
kind of like walls we have right out here.
Yeah, like the shiplap or the reclaimed wood or bricks or whatever. But also they're making tile and wallpaper to look like that stuff.
Right.
So then it looks like the trend without, it's just like.
I don't think your mother or grandmother's wallpaper is coming back in from the 70s and 80s, but I do think, like you said, like little accents, like I've seen, looked really cool at your brother's house down in Texas, Kurt and Darby. I should probably give her the credit. But
it was not my brother.
How they have an accent wall in the dining room that looks really, really cool, right? And it's wallpaper.
Chevron.
Black
and white.
But you're starting to see them like in half baths and just little cozy areas like that, which
pink flamingos.
Really cool.
The other thing that you're seeing a lot more of, especially in the new construction homes, is like the really clean lines.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether it's the cabinetry, whether it's the countertops, whether it's it's very clean. Almost, in my opinion, a little too sterile. That's just me. I like things a little more cozy and kind of homey feeling. But you can dress that up with your own personal stuff when you move in. But for basic, like you went just this weekend, Brad, and toured 8, 9 new construction homes with a client. Was that not the theme that you had?
Totally. And the one that you're going back through, it's really neat that it mixes both. So they have like a waterfall countertop,
nice.
which is like kind of modern, straight lines. But then they have in the great room, they have a coffered ceiling. So, that like kind of brings in that nice warmth and the woodwork, even though it's still got a modern touch to it.
Right.
I'm still laughing. Literally inside, we're talking about this right now with you two.
Well, hey, we're professionals, right? We're very observant people, and
we're just normally very quiet about this. So we do have a deep expertise in this that we, don't like to tell everybody.
Well,
it's your secrets.
Exactly. Well,
secret sauce.
In our opinion, probably is a little biased to all the opinions that we hear all the time, right?
True.
So it's probably shaped around what people have to think, which is
true. That's true.
These weren't our ideas.
No. But I would have to say something about that. I do feel that like the way that this modern push for like white and straight lines. I mean, it could be a lot of people, could be overwhelming. I think it's a very cornered market, probably more in the new construction, right? But that definitely has been a comment of like, oh my gosh, there's so much white in this house. There's so much, you know, but there's ways to get around it, right? So if someone was coming to you advice that, you know, and they're saying, you know, hey, what should we improve as we live throughout the home? What would your advice be to somebody that is looking to make some improvements?
Well, depending on what they want to spend.
A pool?
No. I mean, pools in the Midwest are silly, but since COVID, they certainly have been more popular. And they used to be a net negative on a home, and now I'd say they're kind of a wash. It's not a positive. It's not a negative.
Value depending on the usable space.
But I would have to say the biggest thing would be, well, two big trends that I feel like. Number one is more indoor-outdoor space. So whether that be pergola, whether that be a screen porch, I think people just really, really, really like the idea of the bringing the outside in and vice versa. The other thing is from a health standpoint, like a lot of like the infrared saunas in the home gyms, you're just seeing more of that. And again, it's COVID changed that, right? Like we kind of were getting into that trend of, you know, the green homes and smaller, and now people are really seeing the value in that. So I would say that it would probably be something that helps you from a health and wellness standpoint, right, that normally you would go outside of the home to spend money on, that it's like, okay, well, I can invest in this in my property, and therefore I'm not spending it outside the property, and it's something that adds value. And then the indoor outdoor. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not you cannot go wrong with a screen porch or a sunroom. You can't.
I think every time that you walk into a house, yes, the house is great, but the biggest added bonus that, you know, outside of the actual living space in a home is a well-maintained backyard, right? If you've got a fence, I think people love that. If you've got some type of paver, patio, pergola, I think that's just the cherry on top that would probably push someone to potentially write an offer on a house if it's in good shape, right? So I think that's number one. The health and wellness is very interesting too right now, because I almost see someone more concerned about a gym space than an office, which, you know, we're seeing the trends now as there's changes within the government of people having to more likely go back to work. So that's not as an important space. But this health and wellness, you know, sauna, gym, it's almost becoming towards the top a must have.
I agree.
Well, and the funny thing is, PT, is when you say that, you know, do you think though it's because back in the day, your home office had to have a lot more storage and space in it because a lot more, you had to store a lot more things, right? And now everything is becoming filing paperless cabinet, and, you know, you store it in the cloud on your computer or whatever, your OneDrive. So, I mean, maybe you just don't need as much space, right?
In, Rezen.
Yeah, we're on a market trends right now. Well, I understand real is a market trend in itself, but for real, we're on market trends. But no, I think that maybe that's part of it, right? And you are 100% correct, because now that we say that, I mean, I don't know the last time. I mean, granted, I don't show homes as often as the two of you, but it's not like when people give their wish list, when sometimes I'm doing qualify, I don't hear people say I wanted home office anymore. Do you hear that?
Sometimes, but not nearly as often as you used to. The new one that you're going to show today had a dining room, which is very interesting. That I think once you reach a certain price point, like a lot of people were going away from having that, but I think a lot of those people are starting to entertain more at home again. And I really think that at a certain price point, if the home's large enough, that you should probably do that.
Right. And it's very interesting to watch the two type of entertaining avenues within the house. Some people want, you know, just a hallway with your living room, your informal, and your kitchen with a big island, right? And then you can work off that. But yes, there's something about the formality of, and I don't know if it's people moving back and they want to host their family or whatever it is in our specific market. But yes, the dining room is an interesting aspect.
And
too.
You really have to have, if you don't have a room, you really have to have a space. And that was kind of getting away too, where you can have a bigger table. Right.
Well, and I think to your point, and this is for me, and I feel like we've had some high-end clients, luxury clients, that when they've built their home or remodeling properties, we have one right now that's looking that they don't necessarily need the house to be super big, and they don't necessarily need a dedicated dining space, but they need to have the space when they have their family over. So I'm very big on the flex space. And what I mean by that is figuring out how the kitchen can incorporate into an informal dining space or an eat-in space that you can incorporate into maybe part of your great room or whatever for a larger gathering.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying is you don't necessarily have to have a room, but you need to have the space where you can have a big table.
We have a dining room, and I like our table and our hutch in it and whatever. But I mean, honestly, we don't really use it that often. Granted, now I feel like, okay, so if we're talking trends and things going back to the indoor-outdoor space, I think if you can figure out a way to position your dining room in your home where it is incorporated into your indoor outdoor, or if you have a view, like that's with ours is on the front of our house. There's no real view. It's kind of off on its own. And I feel like that's a lot why we don't go to it. So I feel like when you take into consideration how important it is right now for people with the indoor outdoor and that kinds of things, and a view and a little privacy, just make sure, especially if you're building a house remodeling, weposition it in a place where you're kind of getting 2 for 1 there.
Well, and here's the thought process too, and we're starting to piece it together. I think we're kind of putting the puzzle pieces together. But let's think. So, all these spaces that are kind of not needed anymore, are all this stuff is happening. But now people have the ability to go out and without any restrictions, right? So we're kind of fully out of the COVID phase, and you're able to go out and be. It's more important to have those spaces inside now to have people over. So I think that is something that's a huge trend now. Is that now that people can go out, they want people to come in.
Yeah, totally. It's all
reverse now.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, let's really face it. I mean, COVID, DoorDash, Grubhub, all the rest of those were very popular, but that made it just explode. That we realize now that, hey, it might be kind of nice that, we might pay a little bit more once we have to pay the fees and once we need to do that. But it's probably still going to be less than going to the restaurant where you're like going to order drinks, you're like going to do all the rest of that. And it just goes back to the entertaining at home thing that you need a space for that.
Right.
Well, and I think too, another trend that you're seeing a lot is in your kitchen, convenience appliances.
Right.
So no longer just the standard refrigerator, range oven, microwave, whatever. You're seeing the convenience item. So whether that's a built-in, I don't know, whatever those things, espresso machines or whatever they are, the steamer, going back to the health and wellness, I've not seen a built-in, whatever those things are, Instapot, or what do they call those things?
Oh, the
warmer drawers?
No,
fillers.
No. Well, the pot fillers, they still have
Yeah.
those. No, the thing that the people that you put the stuff in and it cooks quicker.
Convection.
No.
Yes.
What is this?
Air fryer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've seen a built-in air fryer, but I mean, I'm sure that somebody has one.
It's probably coming down the road.
Yeah, you're just seeing more of those things, right? Like the actual cheese drawer, because cheese is a big thing. So,
well, and you are also seeing big time smart homes now too, right? Where you can do everything off of your cell phone. I mean, you can get into Savant systems, all of the rest of that, which is very high end. But even like for garage door openers, your lights, those kinds of things, your thermostat in the house, which I always love because we've got those at each of our properties. And when we're on the way back or we're heading somewhere, if we're going up to Wisconsin, you just turn up the heat a little bit or you turn down the heat. So it's always good to have it right there on your phone, which, 20 years ago, you couldn't do that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think wireless thermostats and that have been around for a while, but I think it's, to your point, it's the systems that are now encompassing it in one,
all in one.
It's kind of doing it for you, with the geofencing and all those things that, I mean, that's out of my league.
Technology.
We went from paint colors and
we have covered a lot of these new trends here.
It has. Yeah, but it definitely is interesting to see how everything is it's so wild because this is kind of like my first big wave of everything going, changing just a little bit because that gray is definitely out. I mean, now almost if you have everything with gray, it's like,
it looks outdated, right?
Well, this is an investment or something like that. So, yes, it's quite interesting to see the shift. I would say just a quick recap. I think I think the most convenient, if you can make your home more convenient with those items like the blinds or the thermostat, I think that's just a simple way that you don't have to do major work. I think that's a huge thing and people really appreciate. Just the more comfort amenities, whether that's going to be your backyard or your screen and porch, another big thing, or these flex rooms that you can have multiple uses for them, kids, workout, all of that good stuff.
And I was going to say one final thought is that electric fireplaces. That's another thing
that is becoming really big,
huge because they've made them now where you can still get the warmth off of them and the look, but they're not wasting money on gas. They're less expensive.
Look real now.
Yeah. So that's a big trend for sure. So
very cool.
We're feeling very trendy.
Yes.
That's right. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. We'll pass you off to Andrea because that's probably the most that Brad and I can talk about. But it will be interesting to see what the next 5 years bring and what we're talking about here. But it's always interesting to see.
Let's do this episode a year from now and see what's different.
See what's different. So for all of the popular trends right now, DM Andrea.
Yeah, exactly. Peace.